What's up, faithful? Sunday night, a little late, but it's okay. Better late than never. It's always fun to talk about Niners, even in the off season when there are no games except the Pro Bowl. Well, let's talk about a little bit of news that came out today. I wouldn't say news, but a little topic to get to. Let me drop the intro. What's up, everybody? How we doing tonight? It's Sunday, Pro Bowl. The Niners at least crushed the Niners own the Pro Bowl, but we got a lot to talk about tonight. Joe Montana today. Y'all saw the video on Volume Sports with Mike Silver. Joe Montana, the legend, the great, one of the greatest of all time. I love Joe. He thinks that the 49ers should start Jimmy Garoppolo in 2023. We're going to talk about it. I want your opinions. Um, Eric says, when did Joe say this? Today, this morning, this weekend. I don't know exactly when it was shot, but it was this weekend with Mike Silver on the Volume Sports. He has a podcast. Type it in Google. Look at Joe Montana. It's that you'll find it. You'll definitely see the video. What's up, Vicky? How's it going, Danielle? Re, what's good? Tommy, you aren't first. Hey, it's all good. Y'all are all first in my heart. I love Joe. Says sad Niner fan, but that take ain't it. Eric says old people these days. Nia says, can I get a birthday shout out from the GOAT? Nia, happy birthday. Appreciate always supporting the channel. Let's get a big happy birthday to Nia. Drop some comments. Wish Nia a happy birthday. Let's go. Miguel, what's up? Steve-O says, what's up? Make sure y'all join the Discord. Definitely don't join the RS of 49ers Discord. Got good mods. They've been keeping it rolling throughout the season. So join that. We got to keep grinding this off season. Hey, here we are. We got 89 people in. Hit that like button. But let's get to the topic at hand, right? So quarterback is going to dominate the airwaves for the 49ers again, for another year under Kyle Shanahan. It's crazy. Every single year we sit in here talking about quarterback. Like, I want to be talking about something else, but we never can in the offseason. Absolutely crazy to me. Brock Purdy, he came in this season, and it was like, holy crap, we might have found the one. And then in the NFC Championship game, unfortunately, as we know, he tore his elbow. He got a torn UCL. He's still trying to figure out what's going to happen. We don't know if he's going to get the surgery soon. Hopefully he does. But regardless, he has at least 6 months to go, and that brings us to about August, September time. He may not be able to be ready to start the season. So that gives us Trey Lance, quarterback one, most likely. They traded him up to get him with the number 3 pick a couple years back, and he waited his time. He finally was looking like he was going to get his opportunity. Then, boom, unfortunate. The bad luck strikes. Trey Lance goes down with an injury. It's unfortunate. And Jimmy Garoppolo stayed on the roster, which was crazy last year. Like, we all sat here. They told us he was gone. He had his farewell. And, boom, Jimmy stayed on the roster this offseason. It was crazy. And he stayed. And it was kind of like, oh, my God, we kept him. He's a backup. It's good that we had him. He went on a run. They won some games. It was like, okay, the team stayed afloat. You saw a new and improved Jimmy. He played with the fire under him, And then, boom, he goes down. It was like, what the hell is going on? And then Brock Purdy comes in, as we said, and he became the guy until he got hurt. So it's been crazy. So today we had Joe Montana talking about how he said Mike Silver asked him straight up. He says, if it's up to you, who would be the starting quarterback in 2023? And he says, I'll start Jimmy. I'll start Jimmy Garoppolo. He says he's won a lot of games. And then he says, I can't say the same for Trey. You don't know that from him. I don't think it's that hard. I think you just start Jimmy. And Mike Silver's like, hey, he's a free agent, Jimmy. And you just can't just get him back in the roster. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. He still won the games. He won the games before Brock went down. Like, he was pushing it. And again, I don't deny that. Jimmy has won games, but still. The thing that's crazy to me is the guy is a free agent. Kyle Shanahan last week in his press conference said, hey, look, dude, he's not coming back. He's not coming back. We don't see that scenario. Last year, they said the same thing. But this year, he's a free agent. Last year, he was under contract. They couldn't get rid of him. So they kept him. This year, he's not even under contract. They have no ties that bind him to him. And he's going to probably get a good contract from somewhere, as he should. He's a solid veteran. Teams are going to need a veteran quarterback on the market. The Colts, the Texans, the Jets, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of teams that could use a quarterback, and they would offer Jimmy money. 49ers have 2 quarterbacks on a rookie deal. They got to extend Bosa. They got a lot of players to extend. What is it, like 25 free agents or something like that? It's crazy. Again, I respect Jimmy for what he's done, but there's no reason to bring him back right now. And dude, the mental framework for Trey Lance is crazy. People are not giving this kid a chance. He's started 4 games in the NFL. People are calling him a bust. He just hasn't had the opportunity. And last year was unfortunate. It was an injury. And again, mentally, he may be in a funk somewhere. I don't know where Trey is mentally, but that's a lot to deal with. People have wrote him off. The injury is crazy to me, and I just hope that Trey gets his opportunity. And if he doesn't play good, and if he's not good, you got Brock Purdy, and hopefully he's healthy at some point, and then you can roll with Brock. Because we saw what he could do. Brock Purdy looked great. To me, he looked great in the short time frame that he played. He's only going to get better. But Trey, he at least deserves an opportunity. That's all I got to say. And then the craziest part of that whole situation, the Joe Montana thing today, is crazy. He is crazy. He goes, you handed a team, sort of like somebody else I know, who got handed a good team. He threw shade at Steve Young, bro. Him and Steve Young had the ultimate QB drama, the quarterback controversy, as we know. That was like 30 years ago, and he's still throwing shade at Steve Young. And he basically said Trey Lance is like Steve Young inheriting a good team. Bro, that's disrespectful. He's like a Niner legend. Like, I feel like he should support the team a little bit. And I get his take. I get it. I understand where he's coming from. But damn, man, throwing shade at Steve Young, throwing shade at Trey Lance, like Joe Montana. You see Steve Young, he supports these guys. He wants them to win. He's going to give them support. And Jerry Rice himself, too. He supports these guys, man. Joe's crazy. That's crazy, man. 100%, Alden, Aiden. Joe does not mess with Steve. Like, he let it know today. I'm like, dog, this is like 30 years ago. Beef 30 years ago. He ain't dropping that beef, man. Oh, man. Dan Chez wants to know, why do you think Vic decided to go to Miami? Money. Paid him a lot of money. He's going to be the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. That's a lot of money. I'd take it. And I think that the 49ers didn't want to change that scheme up too much, as Kyle Shanahan said last week. Didn't want to change the scheme. So I think the Miami Dolphins were like, hey, look, we need a guy to fix this defense. Do what you got to do. We're going to pay you the money. Do your magic. Bring your guys in. So I think there was more control for him in Miami, whereas in San Francisco, they wanted to kind of keep things similar to to what D'Amico had. So I think with Miami, he has a little bit more flexibility there. So I think that, and money, 100%. Appreciate it, Aiden. I'm crazy. Hey, I'm just keeping it a buck tonight, man. I'm just going to keep it a buck tonight. Omar says, what did Montana say? Okay, to summarize it, basically, if you're just hopping in, he basically said Joe Montana said, start Jimmy Garoppolo in 2023, and Trey Lance ain't it. He says Trey Lance ain't it. He says he's not it. And then he called out Steve Young, basically. He says, Steve Young inherited a good team, and that's why he won a Super Bowl. Bro, that's 30 years ago of beef. And he brought it up tonight. In 2023, you bringing up stuff from 1992, 1993, bro. Crazy to me. That's crazy to me. He's petty. Yo, Jason, this is a true comment. I work in rehab. I work with a lot of older people, geriatrics. Bro, they are petty. They get so angry. It's a true statement. Blood Moon says, any offseason free agents you think we pick up aside from who we need to resign? Man, there's a lot of people on the market that I wish they could get, but it's going to be dicey because Nick Bosa is going to really be the key priority. And how are they going to be able to framework stuff around him? I would like to see them maybe do an Arik Armstead restructure. They did it last year. Kittle, maybe. Orlando Brown tackle would be nice. There's a lot of free agents, but I kind of haven't really got down to that nitty gritty and looked at them too much. But I tell you what, man, Payne, there's a defensive lineman, Payne. I would like to get him 100%. So those two guys off the top just pop out to me because I want to get some D-line help and I want to get this team some offensive line help. But again, we'll see. But Brown might be too expensive for us. It's going to be a crazy offseason. And we got players to re-sign on our team. So, yeah. Omar says, no way, no way. No, he said it. And it was crazy because, the thing that I'm going to go back to this. The thing that, like, got me about his take was Jimmy's a free agent. Like, to me, that take was crazy because, okay, you got Jimmy. And even if it does make sense to bring Jimmy back, okay? I'm not going to say if it is or not. Even if it did make sense, Kyle already said for the second year in a row, we're not bringing Jimmy back this year. He says we're not doing it this year. We are not bringing him back. You know how awkward that would be for Kyle to call up Jimmy. Yo, Jimmy. Yeah, I already told you ain't coming back, but we need you back because you win games like that. That's it. That would be so awkward to me. And that's the thing. Like when Mike Silver's telling them, like, Jimmy's a free agent. It's not like they could just get him. It would cost a lot of money. And I think Jimmy is going to get a contract somewhere. I think a team is going to give him a contract. Like, you got Houston, again, the Jets, the Colts, Tampa Bay. There's a lot of teams that are going to offer him money, more money than I think the Niners would offer him, right? The Niners aren't going to be able to give him a big contract because they do have these free agents like we're talking about, right? So a lot of contracts that the team has to get. We have a lot of free agents, the extensions of Bosa. Do they want to bring back Emmanuel Mosley? You got Charles Omenihu, you got Samson Ebicam, you got Azeez Al-Shahir, who I don't think they'll be able to get, but you still, have the potential of getting them back. You got Juwan Jennings, who they're going to tender. You got Brunskill, Jake Brendel. You got a lot of players that you could bring back. It's a lot of money. So you don't just give a big veteran contract to a guy like Jimmy when you have two quarterbacks on a rookie deal. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. VZ says, Joe, you're the GOAT, but Jerry Rice shows up to every game. Hey, Jerry Rice, I'm going to tell you, man, Jerry Rice is he is the Niner legend that loves this. Like, he is the ultimate Niner legend, the ambassador. Like, when I think about ambassador for this team, is Jerry Rice. I see him at all the games. He turns up. He gets hyped. He's running on the sideline. He gets the team hyped. He wears the chain, the bling-bling chain. Jerry Rice loves he eats, breathes, and sleeps 49er football. Like, he is a Niner faithful for life, faithful to the Bay. Jerry Rice, that man is the ambassador of the 49ers. Steve Young, too, I think he does a good job of really being there and being an old head that kind of supports this team. And not a lot of players give as much as Jerry to this team, man. He supports them 100%. Nia says Jerry is one of us. 100% I feel that Jerry is one of us. When he was in the crowd this year in the playoffs, he went into the crowd with the faithful in the stands. That was lit. I was like, dude, Jerry is a Niner fan. He's not just a former player. He's a fan. VZ says receiver coach will be done. Jerry Rice is always going to be part of this team. Oh, no, I love it. JR says Jeff Garcia supports the team too. Jeff Garcia really does. Yeah, he's a big proponent of the Niners. He got his big start with the Niners. Remember Steve Young goes down and Jeff Garcia takes over, and the pride of San Jose State. He loves the Niners. There's certain players that just love them. I don't know. I feel sometimes that Jerry or Joe Montana. Sometimes I don't feel that vibe from him. I know he went to the Chiefs like a couple years ago when the Chiefs and the Niners were in the Super Bowl. He wore the divided jersey. I kind of felt a little slighted on that. I was like, dog, you played with the Niners for a lot more years than you played with the Chiefs. You won 4 Super Bowls with the 49ers, and he had a divided jersey like Chiefs, Niners. That was crazy to me. That showed me where his heart was. It's like he was kind of divided, and I got so much respect for Joe. He won all those Super Bowls, legend. I sometimes feel that he doesn't 100% bleed red and gold. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Hunter says, who do you think we're getting for defensive coordinator? I think it's going to be Stephen Wilkes. He interviews for the 49ers tomorrow in the morning. When you wake up, and if you're listening to this in the morning, he'll be interviewing Steve Wilkes, former defensive coordinator of the Browns, former head coach of the Cardinals, former interim head coach of the Carolina Panthers. This guy has a lot of experience, really good defensive guy. He's really good with the secondary. He wouldn't really have to change things up with his schemes, basically. And he's a big veteran in terms of his knowledge of the game. And again, you got Kyle, who's going to run the offense. He needs a guy he can throw out there, says, hey, this is your defense. Go do it. I think he's the most qualified guy for the job. Again, they have Chris Harris, who they've interviewed this week, and they potentially thought about Chris Kasurk, but I think Steve Wilkes is the best option. That's just my opinion. So we'll see. Sad Niner fan says Wilkes made the Panthers a competitive team. He did. Like, that team was really bad this year. We played them. We crushed them. They traded CMC to us. They fired their coach. They were in shambles. They benched Baker, and then Steve Wilkes takes over, and they started winning games. The guy's a good coach. So I think Steve Wilkes will be the guy. I like Steve. Blood Moon says CMC will advocate for a Burns trade behind closed doors, and I would not argue that at all. Can you imagine Brian Burns, Nick Bosa? I don't think that they'd afford it. I just don't see it happening. But could you imagine if somehow they pull it out, they pull the rabbit out of the hat? That would be phenomenal. That's what I want for this team. I want 2 premium edge rushers, man. I want a Nick Bosa on one side and a Nick Bosa type guy on the other side. That's all I want. I might be greedy, but that's what I want. That's 100% what I want. Adit says he made Josh Norman who he was. Before Josh Norman was the Josh Norman on the Niners, Josh Norman was a Pro Bowl cornerback with the Panthers. He was a pretty good cornerback. He had the feud with OBJ back in the day. Josh Norman was a pretty good cornerback. And back when Steve Wilkes was on that team, on the Panthers team, he's the guy that kind of molded Josh Norman to where he was, Pro Bowl type guy. So, yeah, he has some good experience. He's had some good success stories. I like him. VZ says, did I catch the Pro Bowl? Juice and Kittle looking nice out there. I did. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched most of it. But it was nice to see Juice and Kittle out there lighting it up, holding it down for the Niners and the NFC. It was good. It was good to see some smiles from the team. I'm sure they're upset. I'm sure they wish they were in the different bowl. It was nice to see them, though. Brian Burns and CMC were vibing. You had Kittle and Juice scored touchdowns. Kittle over the middle. You had Juice making that crazy catch where he extended from Kirk Cousins. Cue the Kirk Cousins to Niners rumor. There's going to be rumors. I already know. Kirk Cousins to SF rumors are going to hit in a couple weeks. I'm sure there's going to be Cousins to 49ers rumors because Kyle Shanahan, that's his ultimate crush. That was his first crush, Kirk Cousins. That's his guy. So, Ade says, how do I feel about the Jimmy Ward live? Yeah, we talked about that last week. Jimmy Ward keeps it absolutely 100. He's unfiltered. He says what's on his mind. And I always respect that about him. He's genuine. He doesn't care. He's going to let you know what he thinks. And some people like that. Some people don't. He keeps it 100. I like that about him. And the big takeaway I got was he's not coming back to the Niners unless they pay him what he wants. And I don't think they're going to pay him what he wants. I think he's going to go to a team that has a coach he's familiar with. Maybe Houston, maybe the Jets, maybe Miami, one of those 3 teams, or somebody in the NFC West. We're not going to like that, but I think he definitely is gone. I see him going with D'Amico. That's kind of the vibe I get. But, Jimmy was talking about his career and what he's done with the Niners. And, he said a lot of big things in that. And I respect Jimmy for keeping it 100 and being honest. He says, look, this is a free agency. I got to go check the market. And this is probably going to be his last time he really cashes out, right? This could be his last time he gets a contract. He's 32 years old? It's not like they're going to be knocking down his door when he's 34, 35 years old. So he's going to get a 2-3 year contract, as much as it can be. He's going to say, hey, look, I'm versatile. I could play the nickel. I could play safety, whatever you need me to do. And I think he's going to go to a team that's familiar with him. Again, Robert Salah or D'Amico Ryans, they know they can use him. They know how to use him. And he'll sign a big contract. But shout out to Jimmy, man. He keeps it 100. So I like him. VZ says, would you be okay with Cousins coming in? I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins guy. I really am not. And I don't think it would be bad if he was there. I think they'd win a lot of games. I think he could win games with this team. Obviously, this offense is phenomenal, right? It's Kittle, Juice, and CMC, and Debo, and Ayuk, and it's crazy. We have all the weapons, and I think Kirk could come in, and they'd be a high-scoring offensive machine, and, Shanahan loves him. We know he could run the offense. I just don't think Kirk Cousins can take a team to a Super Bowl. I just never have been on that, and I got to stay consistent with my take. I've never thought he could do it on any team he's been with. And if he came to the Niners, I got to stay with my same energy. I can't sit there and say, oh, just because he's on the Niners, he's going to win a Super Bowl. I can't do that. That's my take. I've always said it. That Kirk Cousins is not a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and I got to stay my ground. Would he win a lot of games with the Niners? 100%. But it also costs a lot of money. I don't know if the Niners are going to be able to pay a guy like that. But again, I've always stood with the take of I don't think Kirk Cousins was a Super Bowl, so I don't think that they'd win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. I think he'd win a lot of games with them. But he's not to me, he's just not a prime time guy. Like, you better get him in the playoffs, and he vanishes. That's my take on it. And again, I can't change it. I can't sit there. If he comes to the Niners, I can't sit there and say, oh, well, he's a Niner. He's going to win a Super Bowl. I want to be real. I got to stay real with myself. And if let's say they do, I will not switch my stance. If they sign him, I'll come to you guys live and I'll say, I don't think he can win a Super Bowl. I won't. And if he proves me wrong, prove me wrong, Kirko. I would like to see the Kirko chains. That would be it would be fun content, though. But no, I don't want Kirk Cousins to come to the Niners. Please don't. Ariel says Kirk is a regular season quarterback. Come playoff time, he crumbles. He crumbles like a soft cookie. He does, 100%. I agree with that. Jay Bus says we need to keep developing Trey and Purdy. I agree. Young quarterbacks, let them develop. Especially Trey. Trey doesn't even get an opportunity. He hasn't even really got an opportunity. The injury sucked for him last year. George says, thoughts on if they bring Carr as a backup? Do you think Carr this is my question to you, if you guys think Carr coming in as a backup. I'm just going to offer up a question to you guys. Do you think Carr would play as a backup quarterback? The Raj curse. That's what I do. I curse everybody. Do you think Carr would play a backup quarterback right now? Looking at the market, do you think Derek Carr would come to the Niners to play backup when you see all the other options out there? There's the Jets. There's the Texans. There's the Colts. There's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of opportunities out there for quarterbacks. Do you think Carr would come to take a backup job, or would you take a higher contract to get a starting job? That's what you gotta. And the Saints, yeah, sad Niner fan, and the Saints. You got to be real with yourself. I don't think Carr would come to the Niners to be a backup quarterback when he literally could go to New Orleans Saints and be their starting quarterback, or he could literally go to the Jets or another team and be a starting quarterback. So it just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense to me that he would come to the Niners to be a backup quarterback. You're going to back up Trey Lance? You're going to back up Brock Purdy? He ain't going to do that. He can cash out. He could get a decent contract. I still think Carr gets a decent contract. Somebody will pay him a lot of money. Probably be Tampa Bay or the Saints. Or Carolina. I think Carolina needs a quarterback too. So there's no way. Would I take him as backup? No, I wouldn't. Don't need him as backup. Because I don't think Carr is going to win a Super Bowl either. Is Brock Purdy going to win a Super Bowl? I don't know. Is Trey Lance? I don't know. But we have these two young guys, and they got to develop them. That's it. And again, Derek Carr's not going to take a backup role. There's no way. Yeah, I agree. Carr will start somewhere in 2023. Falcons. Yeah, Falcons, Deuce. There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback this year. Quarterback is in high demand every year. It's crazy. You're right. The Falcons need a quarterback. Jimmy's market is bigger than ever. He's going to some of these. He's going to one of these teams. Joe Montana needs to realize that Jimmy Garoppolo has a market. 49ers are not going to re-sign him. That's all I want Joe to know. Like, that whole take to me, like, I was like grinding my ear. I was like, bro, Joe, do you not realize that Jimmy is a free agent? Like, even Mike Silver was like his face. Mike Silver was like, it's crazy, man. Salvador says, y'all want Kirko, the guy that tried to snap the ball under a guard? That was the funniest thing I saw when he did that. Oh, Blood Moon says, Zach Wilson is officially a bust. That guy is such a bust. You know what I think, though? I think Robert Salah keeps him on the roster, and they're going to give him a chance. They're going to give him a chance. They're going to get a veteran, but they're going to keep Zach there, and they're going to try to, like, mentor him and try to save grace with him. Zach Wilson, to me, I 100% agree that he is an absolute bust there. Big Dez says, Joe goes against the grain a lot. Yeah, it's so weird. And again, I love Joe Montana, man. I'm probably going to get people commenting later when they read this post, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Joe Montana's the greatest. They got to get Jimmy. It's just, to me, it doesn't make sense because Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent. It's just going to be awkward if you bring him back. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, they've been trying to get rid of Jimmy for the last couple of years because that's where they got Trey. Like, it would just be the weirdest situation. Okay, this is the way I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, Joe, they traded up to get Trey to replace Jimmy. Jimmy comes back, Trey goes down, and then Jimmy's out, but then you bring him back to replace Trey, the guy that you replaced Jimmy. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. Like, keeping Jimmy at this point would be an absolute weird, awkward situation for everybody involved. You got to let it go. Just got to let it go. And it's no disrespect to Jimmy. Again, I respect the things he's done to this team. And I know they've won games with him. I'm not saying they don't. But it's just a weird-ass situation to say, bring back Jimmy because he's won games. He's a free agent. It's time to cut ties, man. They tried to do it last year. I don't know. That's just my take on it overall. So, Mariota. I don't like Mariota. But for a backup for a third string, I'll take Mariota as a third string backup. Because you got Trey and Brock. I'm okay with Mariota being a backup, like a third string. I'm okay with that. And I think that's the type of guy they're going to have to get that third string. Because I imagine maybe Brock starting the season on the injured reserve if, the timing of the surgery and everything. So maybe Brock was on the injured reserve. You got Trey as starter. You need a backup at that point. And maybe Mariota. And then you're going to need another backfield. Like, I would not be surprised. If they bring Nate Sudfeld back for training camp and see what he can do with this team again. And they see where he is, and maybe he sticks with the roster. I could see them bringing Nate Sudfeld back 100%, like 100%. See them bringing Nate Sudfeld back this year during training camp. Tommy says Purdy might get Tommy John. Yeah, and again, we still don't know 100%. I think we'll find out this week. We'll get some updates this week. I'm hoping that we figure out exactly what the course of action for Brock is. He's weighing all options. There's not a lot of surgeons that are doing the surgeries he needs. So he has to contact all these surgeons. They got to make their decisions. He's got to get the swelling down in his elbow. So, this is a big decision for Brock. Nate Sudfeld, you don't remember Nate, Kevin? He was a practice squad quarterback. He was the third string quarterback this year during training camp, pretty much. Or maybe he was the second string because Brock was third string, and then Brock beat him out. Let's see. You guys want to know who do we think? Ebukam or Amenahu, someone asked. If I had to choose between those two, I'm taking Amenahu. It's no disrespect to Ebukam. Ebukam played good. He was solid. But I think Amenahu has a little bit more upside. But we got to see how his legal process plays out. Because we still don't know what's going to happen with that. There's going to be a couple weeks where they're going to have, all the evidence and everything comes out in the trial and da-da-da-da-da. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But I think if everything clears up with his legal stuff, I would take Amenahu. I think he's better. I like Ebukam. He's a solid depth guy. I don't feel like he's as good of a pass rusher as Amenahu. I think so. I mean, Ebukam, sometimes he just runs at the guy. Just like runs at him. Pure strength. Just, I feel like Amenahu has a little bit more technique to him. But either way, I think they'll only be able to get one of them back. Aiden says, when are we dropping Josh Johnson? He's a free agent. He's not. There's no way they sign him back. If they sign back Josh Johnson, the ratio on that post, the comments on that post, I guarantee we'll have more likes on the post. We'll have more comments than likes on that post. And I need to see you guys. If we get Josh Johnson if we get breaking news, Josh Johnson has signed back with the 49ers. I need you guys to go crazy in the comments because that would be wild if they do it. There's no way. There's no way they bring Josh Johnson back. There's no way. There's no way. Can you imagine if they bring Josh Johnson back? No disrespect to you, Josh, if you're watching, which you're probably not. But if you are, no disrespect. But please don't come back. I'm gonna riot too with you, bro. I'll be with the pitchfork. Good man. Josh Johnson looked like Willie Beeman coming off the bro. He didn't know where he was. Like, I bet you when he was like seeing Brock over on the tent, and he's like, "Oh, dog, Brock's hurt. What do you mean I gotta go? Brock, are you okay? Brock, are you? I bet you he asked, just like Kittle, are you ambidextrous? Do you want to borrow my arm? Do you want to borrow? Like, Brock, please come in. Josh was not ready for that moment. I don't think he ever would be. And it's no disrespect to him, but Josh was not ready for that moment. That's tough for him, man. Like, when he was throwing, he was shaking. He was shaking. The fumble, he didn't know what he was doing. He did not expect to be in that moment. There's no way. Faked the concussion. I don't even think he faked it, Susan, but his head like bounced. I unfortunately rewatched that game, and it was like this guy was like lost out there. It was bad. Yeah, Omar, he was looking lost, just dazed and confused. I feel bad for like looking back at it because people are dogging him. I feel bad for Josh Johnson. He should not have even been in that moment. Like looking back, hindsight, like maybe they should have gotten a better quarterback to back up Brock. But then at the same time, you don't expect every single quarterback on your team to get hurt that year. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. Tommy, they weren't going to call no roughing. They were not going to call roughing at all. And it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate. And I feel bad for that. Like, I know we sitting here dogging him. We're saying, don't come back, Josh. And I mean, don't come back. I genuinely felt bad for the guy because he was the quarterback at that point. And then looking at that game and rewatching the mic'd up and like seeing Kittle trying to rally these guys up, it was sad. Like, it's just like, God dang. Like, you could tell, like, their hearts were ripped out of their soul. They knew they couldn't play without a quarterback. It is just sad, you know? It's unfortunate for them. And Josh was in a tough situation, but what can you do? That's just the football gods. Said, hey, look, we're here to take away your quarterbacks. But watching the Pro Bowl this weekend, George Kittle got an arm when he was playing dodge. Like, George Kittle could have threw. Kyle Juszczyk should have been the quarterback. I'm not going to lie to you. This guy has an arm, too. The discus, when he was doing, like, that discus celebration. Kyle Shanahan should have said, look, Kyle Juszczyk. I don't know if I said Kyle Shanahan or Kyle Juszczyk. Kyle Juszczyk, sorry. Kyle Juszczyk should have been the quarterback. Like, I know he was the emergency quarterback. Looking at this week, bro, they should have just put Juszczyk. They had nothing to lose. He kind of has a decent arm. Maybe they could have put Juice in there. Well, Juice is underrated. They don't use him enough. They got to use that man enough. A little bit more. Josh Johnson better than Dante Johnson? No. Dante Johnson he's the better. Dante Johnson is actually low-key decent. I think Dante's good, man. He actually like figured out the system after all the years being with the Niners. I like Dante. I felt bad when he tore his ACL this year. Like his last two, like he actually made some big plays here and there. I like Dante. He's a good dude. He did seem, Susan says, he does seem like a good guy, just not good at the game of football. He's been in the league for, 15 years? He's got 13 career touchdowns in 15 seasons. Like, that's bad. I don't know how he's been with the Niners for so many years, you know? Jimmy says, imagine if we beat Philadelphia and went to the Super Bowl after Brock's injury. That'd be the most disappointing Super Bowl ever, starting with Josh Johnson or maybe Jimmy G. And that would have been sad. Like, if you go to the Super Bowl knowing your starting quarterback's hurt, they would have been the most unsurmountable. They would have been the biggest underdogs going into the Super Bowl without a quarterback. So it is. I mean, I still think they could have had a shot to at least compete. But I agree with you. I think if the 49ers somehow would have won that game, Brock's not. He wasn't going to play. Trey's not going to play. So if Josh Johnson clears concussion protocol, he might be your starter. And then Jimmy G, if Jimmy G was cleared, they would have had him playing. Like, yo, if you can play, you can be the starter, and then Josh would be the backup, 100%. But we don't know if Jimmy would have been cleared for that game. So Josh might have been the only quarterback. Then they would have somehow had to go sign some guy, maybe Nate Sudfeld. It would have been crazy if the 49ers somehow won that game. And who knows what the heck the quarterback situation would have been like. They would have been a massive underdog in that game. So it probably wouldn't have been a good outcome regardless. So George says he can't wait to hear Nick Bosa as Defensive Player of the Year on Thursday. They better not do him wrong. They better not do Nick dirty on Thursday. So we all know the NFL honors are Thursday night. Nick Bosa is in contention to be Defensive Player of the Year. Brock Purdy, Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate. Kyle Shanahan, Head Coach of the Year candidate. Christian McCaffrey, Comeback Player of the Year candidate. Am I missing anybody? Do we have anybody else for awards? I think those are the guys. I think those are. Oh, and D'Amico Ryans is up for Assistant Coach of the Year. I think D'Amico should win Assistant Coach of the Year. I think Nick Bosa should win Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think anybody else will win on our team. I think Brock deserves it, but I don't think they'll give it to him. I think they'll give it to Garrett Wilson. But if Nick Bosa doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year on Thursday, we're rioting. We are going to go crazy. We are going to go crazy. I know I am. I don't think Kyle wins Coach of the Year. I think he deserves it, but I think they'll give it to Daboll. I mean, he took the Giants, a ragtag team, put him into the playoffs after being the Giants, basically, for, a terrible team. Doug Peterson, actually, I like his story. It's the Jaguars took over. They spent a lot of money. Urban Meyer was there, ruined them. He kind of turned Trevor Lawrence into what he could kind of be. He's kind of reaching his potential. Playoff team. They won a playoff game. The Jaguars won the AFC South. I think he deserves it if he wins. Kyle deserves it if he wins. 3 quarterbacks. They were 3-4. They went on a 12-game win streak. Took them to the NFC Championship for the second year in a row. All 3 of those guys are deserving. So whoever wins that Coach of the Year, much respect. Comeback Player of the Year, CMC. I think he deserves it, but I think they're going to give it to Geno. The NFL loves Geno. I don't know why. I have a feeling Geno's going to win. We'll see. R2 says, if Bosa does not win the Defensive Player of the Year, it'll prove that there's a conspiracy against the Niners. If he doesn't win, that would be absolutely crazy to me if he doesn't win. Like, how can you not give him the Defensive Player of the Year? Like, it doesn't make sense. How could he not? Right? Nia says, what did he come back from the bench? He came back from being a backup for 12 years. I know that argument too, because it's like, what did he come back from? To me, I don't think he came back from anything. To me, comeback is you come back from a big injury. I think they're going to just give it to Geno because they love his story. But honestly, if we're being honest, Saquon Barkley should probably win that award. So Saquon tore his ACL, and he came back, and he was back to the prime running back that he was before the injury. I think Saquon deserves it just as much as I think CFC. But Saquon had a bigger injury. Here, and I think Saquon balled out. Like, he read the Giants to the playoffs. Like, we want to talk about Brian Daboll, Giants. Done Saquon in two. Saquon came, but he deserves it. Saquon probably deserves it. I don't know. I think that's who should win it. But I think they're going to give it to Geno. The NFL loves that guy. They were stroking him today on the Pro Bowl. They were like, oh, Geno. John says, Bosa came back last year. Nobody gave a shit. That's true. When the year he came back from the ACL, last year, and he tore it up. He had a hell of a season. Coming off an ACL tear, and nobody cared. Nobody cares. So maybe you're right. Maybe they won't give it to Saquon. They're probably going to give it to Geno. It's so weird. Like, Nick Bosa had one of the best seasons coming off an injury, and they didn't care. I agree, John. That's sad. That's sad but true. It's very sad but true. Came back from the bench. Andy says, start Drake Jackson next year. Got to get that body up and get that body up. That body in shape. That's what Kyle said. He says he just didn't have the body to finish the season. So his training has to step up this offseason, according to Kyle. Drake played good early in the season, but as the season wore on, he just wasn't ready for the full year. That's no disrespect. That's just Kyle keeping it 100. Say, hey, look, you got to get stronger, basically, for next year. I think Drake will be a good player. I think he's going to continue to develop. He showed a lot of flashes, but he's definitely a little ways away from being an impact player. So he's still developing. He's only going to be in his second year. He has the potential. He has the flashes. But like Kyle said, he says he just wasn't ready to play a full season. NFL versus the college football season, it's a different grind. So, sad Niner fan says, hopefully we see more of Danny Gray. I hope so too. So far, Danny Gray didn't really do much, except towards the end of the year, they used him in the special teams role a little bit more, and he became that gunner. I like that out of him. I think that was nice that Kyle kind of gave him that that role, that special teams role. That's how you earn your keep. You start playing special teams, you start making plays, and you start earning the trust. But these youngsters, these rookies, have to put that work in. They got to develop. They got to train as hard as they can this offseason. Kyle's not just going to throw in a rookie and say, okay, just because you were a pick, you're going to get the opportunity. You got to prove to Kyle that you belong. He's tough on him. So I think Danny Gray needs to adopt the Niner philosophy, says John. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of these players have to buy into what they got to do. Like, especially these offensive players, you got to learn how to block. You got to learn how to do the small things. Like, look at Juwan Jennings. He does the small things that go a big way. Like, he's such a good blocker. And because he does those things, it gives him the opportunity to be implemented into the game more. So that's what you got to do. You got to do the small things for Kyle. And then it leads to something bigger. So T Money says Lance and Gray have a really good vibe. I agree. I think Trey Lance and Danny had a good connection. They're both around the same age. They kind of have that same energy. They trained together in the offseason. Trey's got that deep pass, and I think Danny's made for a quarterback like that. But, regardless, either if Trey's the quarterback or not, I think Danny has to kind of get into that Niner philosophy, like John was saying. Learn the blocking, learn those routes. Just got to work a little bit harder. And that's for the youngsters. That's it. The first year, they test the waters. They see where they got to be. And they learn a lot. And then they realize, okay, second year, if I want to play, if I want to be on this team, I got some things to work on. So, yeah. A Boogie says, I agree. Gray needs to do more of the small stuff. Hard to see Danny Gray being used with Brock's limited arm strength. Yeah, 100%. He just has to work on some of those small things. But again, you keep doing that stuff, and Kyle will see it, and you'll get your opportunity. It's tough, man. This is a good roster. In order to be big-time part of this roster, you got to put in that work. Nicholas says, we asked for this mess when we chose Trey over Mac. Mac definitely was further along than Kyle, but, they wanted the big potential. They wanted that home run threat guy. But, I feel like just the injury really derailed a lot of Trey. But, yeah, Mac definitely was further along. We know what we'd get out of Mac. He's basically a younger Jimmy, kind of a Kirk Cousins type guy. Like, we knew what we'd get out of him. Is he the flashy guy? No. And I think Kyle saw the flash of Trey. And I think John Lynch really fell in love with Trey. I think it's more of a John Lynch pick. That's what it screams like to me. I think John Lynch liked Trey, and he kind of won. And I think his personality won over Kyle. That's kind of what he said in, various podcasts. Because it was down to Mac and Trey. But Mac, there was a ceiling. Like, he caps out. Like, he doesn't have this exponential potential. Like, he's not bad, but he's not going to be this elite type of guy. Where I think they saw this talent with Trey, and they were like, if we can harness him and get the most out of him and hit his potential, he can be so good. But to get that out of him, it takes some time. Because he's not developed as much. He's a raw quarterback. He's got a lot to learn. Mac was pro ready. But, no disrespect to either of them. At this point, we got to see what they got out of Trey, I feel. But it is going to be an interesting offseason. It is going to be an offseason of of uncertainty as we sit here and talk about quarterback again. It's crazy. It's crazy. Arun says, I didn't like that, and I don't like trading that many picks for an unproven player. Honestly, I don't think that was their first plan. I definitely think they were going at another direction. There was a lot of quarterbacks rumored to the Niners that year. Things happened, and I think at that point it was their third plan. And I think a lot of people are just still not sold on Trey because of the fact that he hasn't won games, he hasn't done anything, and the most recent experience, they were left with a bad taste in their mouth. So he's just got to come in there, get over the mental hurdles, and prove him. Honestly, Trey's got to prove himself to a lot of fans, and it is what it is, man. Like, I get why people are not sold on him. I'm not going to tell fans not to be, because I could see why they are. He's only started 4 games, and in those 4 games, it's not like he's looked like this elite number. He hasn't looked like the number 3 pick. Like, I'm going to call it like it is. He hasn't. But I absolutely love the kid. I think he has a lot of potential. He's just got a lot to learn. And again, he was coming in as a raw prospect. And now he hasn't really played football in a long time. So I can see why people are Not certain on Trey. Like, I could see it. I'm not going to say that, oh, Trey's so good. He's elite. He's going to be the best. I want him to. I want him to succeed so bad. But 100% with the fans that say they don't see it, I can 100% see why. Like, he hasn't played a lot of football. And it's okay to say that because he hasn't. So, JB says they wanted Watson or Stafford. Yeah, 100%. I 100% will die on the hill that those are the two guys they were going for. Watson, obviously, massage parlor controversy came out. They're like, okay, we can't do that. And then Matt Stafford was the guy they were kind of looking at. And Sean McVay says, yo, send the picks in. He said, F them picks. And they went over the top. And then Kyle and John were like, okay, we got to go a different route. We're going to take the rookie quarterback. And that's what they did. Andy says, who would I start as the quarterback next year? Well, seeing as how Brock Purdy's uncertain, we don't know if Brock's coming back right now to start the season. And there's no other veteran quarterback that I think that they could really go and get if they want to extend Bosa and stuff. I think it's Trey. You got to see what he's got. You traded up for him. You have to see what he's got. And whether he pans out or not, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. And if Trey starts the season and he just doesn't get to the point where they feel like they're going to win with him, and Brock maybe comes back in midseason, then you got an ace in the hole. Then you got Brock. You can turn him in and say, hey, look, Trey, we tried. Let's give you a little bit of time to collect your thoughts. We got Brock Purdy. We need to win games because there is a window, So I think you got to at least start with Trey. See where you go from there. You got to see what you got out of this. You traded up for the third pick. If you don't use him, he's going to be like Jordan Love, just sitting, waiting, wishing Jack Johnson vibes. And we'll see. We'll see, though. Adit says, Brian Hoyer to SF. Please don't. A Boogie says, I'm never going to forget when Smitty wanted to draft Zach Wilson over life. Did he? I know Smitty I'm not even going to lie to you. He was Trey Lance from day one. But I got to pull up old videos, maybe, right? Edward says, hey, Raj and Faithful, need an open competition. Do you think they rush Brock back from injury? I hope they don't. You got to let that man heal 100%. You can't rush that injury. That is an injury you do not rush. Please don't. Blood Moon says Lance has to get a shot. I agree. At least give him a shot to see it. If he sucks, he sucks. Like, we call it like it is. It is what it is. But at least give him a chance to compete and go out there and show us what he's got. Last year sucked for him. The injury, it sucks. And one thing that Kyle said in his press conference last week, he said, or not Kyle, I think it was John. I think John Lynch says, we love Trey, but he's got to prove to stay healthy. That was great. That was a big statement. I think that's the sentiment that the Niners see of him right now is, can he stay healthy? And that was the same sentiment of Jimmy Garoppolo. Can he stay healthy? And right now in Trey's early career, he had the finger injury, he had the knee sprain, and he broke his ankle. It's tough. It's a tough start to his career, but I think he's got the ability to be good. But John is right. He has to stay healthy. Football is a tough sport. T Money says we have something real special. 2 young quarterbacks. I agree. They're going to both be hungry. They're both going to want to prove themselves. Like, I can imagine Trey's got a fire in his belly. Like, this guy wants to go out there. Everybody's doubting him. You saw him in his press conference last week in the locker room with the media. The media dude asked him, like, yo, people telling you you're not good enough. They're doubting you. And he's like, respectfully, I don't read your articles. And he's like, that sucks for you. But he goes, I don't listen to that stuff. And Trey's already, he knows people are doubting him. He wants to go out there and prove himself. I feel bad for Trey. I feel bad for Brock going down with that injury. Like, these 2 young quarterbacks didn't deserve it. Jimmy didn't deserve an injury. None of these guys did. So, hey, Boogie says, I wouldn't mind Matt Ryan. I think his best days are over. Maybe for QB3. I don't know. I don't want Matt Ryan. But I mean, I guess beggars can't be choosers, right? If he's going to be quarterback 3, backup, Kyle knows how to use Matt. I don't know, man. I feel like Matt Ryan's his best days are way behind him. But Andy says, you, Grant, and Larry are my favorite. Yo, appreciate you, my man. Thanks, Andy. Thank you so much. I try hard. I know I'm not on their level. One day I will be, hopefully. Larry's my boy, though. We got to keep – I always miss out on trying to connect with – this is the problem with me is I know I have a big platform, and people are like, you got to connect with this person, this person. I work a lot, like, during the day. It is tough for me to connect with people. By the time I come back, everybody's already, like, got their shows ready. They got their things ready. Even players. Like, I've reached out to players. Like, yeah, I got you, boy. Let's come on the – and then when I tell them, hey, can you meet with me at, like, 5 or 6 in the evening? It's a little too late. It's a little too late. So I get it. I just work too that much. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody. So, Matt Ryan is a certified choker. I agree. I couldn't have said it better. TJ says, do we still have Fred Warner? Yes. Jason says, are you and Smitty still beefing? We're going to be beefing all off season. It's part of the script. Taysom Hill. I don't want Taysom Hill. No. I don't need him. Hey, Boogie says, hopefully we don't see the Niners in the Pro Bowl games next year. I know, man. I feel the same. Like, it was cool to see it, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, like, I wish we were in a different bowl. I agree. John V, I appreciate you. We'll get there. We'll do it. We'll get there. Mr. Joe says, people who don't like Grant are soft and sensitive. Grant keeps it 100. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to build the content. He does a good job. Players know. Jimmy said it. Jimmy says, hey, he's an honest asshole. And Grant keeps it 100. He does his thing. He's not really a Niner fan. He's just out there creating content. He just happens to cover the 49ers. I think that's what people don't realize. Like, it's not like he's a Niner fan. He just covers them. But he's not a, he's not a true Niner fan that's covered, like a Niner guy, And he gives his unfiltered opinion. I respect it. Ayuk's tweet at Grant. That was funny, man. The whole Ayuk stuff's been pretty funny this weekend. I mean, Grant stirs it up. He stirs the pot. That's what he does. Motivation says, what do you think about getting Teddy Bridgewater? He wouldn't be a bad third-string quarterback. I wouldn't hate it because, he doesn't – there's no pressure if you get Teddy 2 gloves. He comes in. He's a third-string quarterback. He knows he's going to sit and wait his opportunity. And if there's an injury, which a lot of times there probably will be with this team, he'll go suit up. I think he'd be a decent backup. I don't think he'd – and he knows his role. See, this is the thing about Teddy 2 gloves, about Teddy Bridgewater. He knows his role, and it's a backup. And he doesn't hate that. I don't think Bridgewater would be a bad option because, again, you have 2 young quarterbacks who that's your guys. And Kyle and John made that abundantly clear this week. They said, look, we have 2 starting quarterbacks on this roster. That's Trey and Brock. They're not trying to bring in a guy to replace them. They're not. So Teddy Bridgewater, I think, would work in this situation. I like that. I agree with that. I like that. See, I don't know why people hate Trey. I don't know why they hate Brock. I think both of those guys are good. I think both of them are good young quarterbacks. I love Brock, man. His story was phenomenal. I love Trey. I think they both are good young quarterbacks, good mentality. They're both humble. They both want to succeed, and I think we both should. They both have an opportunity to succeed. Brock was special. I'm not going to lie. That was magical, man. Kid plays with a bag of Doritos on his shoulder. So. Draft a rookie quarterback. I think they will draft a quarterback this offseason. They got a lot of draft picks. I think they'll draft a quarterback. I would be shocked if they didn't. So Fire Kyle says, looks like Trey's never played quarterback. Very undeveloped. Like, honestly, like you can't sit there and say that he's polished. He's not. He's a very undeveloped, untapped quarterback. He hasn't played quarterback. He hasn't played football, period, in a long time. He had 2 games his rookie season. He had 2 games this year, mixed in as starter. Sporadically, he played some games. He didn't play 2020. He played football 2019. He started with, North Dakota. So, very undeveloped. So, we'll see. Anyway, we beef up the O-line. I pray. They got 3 offensive linemen that are free agents. They got a lot of youngsters. Jason Poe's a guy that they got a futures contract. They have a good future with him, but he's not going to be right away starter, I don't think. Nick Zakel, they drafted him. Those are 2 guys, aces in the hole. You got Jay Moore, he's a guy that's a depth piece, but they're not quality. They're not proven starters yet. So you got Jake Brendel, free agent. Dan Brunskill, free agent. I think Colton McKivitz is also a free agent, off the top of my head, and then Michael McGlinchey. So that's actually 4 guys. So they're going to need a beef up. I think hopefully they bring back Jake Brendel, maybe. Maybe Brunskill. I like Brunskill. He's a good veteran, utility kind of guy. He's a Swiss Army knife. I think McGlinchey gets a contract somewhere. I think he'll get a decent contract somewhere. So then right tackle becomes a big issue. If they're not going to get a big free agent in the market this year, if you think Jay Moore is the guy, you got to really hope that he is. Otherwise, you need to draft someone. They don't have a draft till the 3rd round. So are there going to be a quality starting right tackle in the 3rd round? It's tough to say. So somehow, some way, they definitely got to beef up that line because trenches killed them. This season in that Eagles game, they got rocked on the trenches. So, and the Eagles, man, that's why they were so good. Is they were so stout up front on the line. So regardless of what happens or who they have, because they got a lot of free agents on that line, they're gonna have to bring in some offensive linemen, 100%. So, hey, Boogie says, I wish we would have kept Trent Brown. Yeah, him and Kyle just didn't see eye to eye. Trent was lazy at the time, according to Kyle and people I know, and he went to the Patriots and Bill whipped him in, said, hey, look, you want to play? You got to get into shape. And Trent became a phenomenal player. But, I just don't think that him and Kyle worked in the same scheme of things, But I like Trent. Trent Brown was good. Brian Greasy, definitely he gets his chance with Trey. I like Brian. I think he was a good quarterback coach from everything we've seen so far this year. So we'll see. Sad Niner fans says, wish we would have drafted Wirfs. I do too. I really wish we would have got Tristan Wirfs. Hindsight's 2020, all right. Damn, that would have been a phenomenal pick. And Creed Humphrey, could have got Creed Humphrey and Tristan Wirfs. We'd be golden. We'd be good because they'd have Spencer Burford at right guard. Creed Humphrey would have been your center, and Tristan Wirfs would have been your right tackle with Aaron Banks and Trent Williams. Could you look at that line? If they would have just listened to me, drafted Creed Humphrey and Tristan Wirfs, would have been chef's kiss. Look at that line. Trent Williams, Aaron Banks. Well, I wouldn't have drafted them, but shout out to them for making that pick. Money pick. Shout out to John Lynch. Yo, I apologize. Aaron Banks is good. Creed Humphrey, Spencer Burford, and Tristan Wirfs. God, would have been money. John says, tell me the Trent Williams news wasn't a blast of fresh air after all the sadness. Literally, when I saw that, I was like, doing cartwheels. That to me was the news of the weekend. It made the week so much better after this week of sadness and losing D'Amico and losing the NFC Championship. And we're sitting here, all these rumors, and they were like, "Oh my God, Trent Williams might retire." When I saw this news, Trent Williams is coming back. Oh my God, I was ecstatic, John, 100%. That was definitely a breath of fresh air. That was amazing. Trent was never retiring. Exhausting season, emotional finish. Yeah, I agree. It was, the timing of that question was kind of crazy. And he was, they were tired. I was tired after this season. I can imagine the players. They were gutted, man. They were gutted. And you're asking them 2 days after the game, you going to retire? Like, bro, I'm tired. That's basically what he's telling. Like, just leave me alone. So. Ariel says, this loss is still haunting. It is Suffolk. It is haunting, but unfortunately, we got to, move on from it. We can't dwell on it. It sucks. We can't change it. It does suck, though. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think you guys do either. If you do, let me know. Dominate says, I agree with Joe Montana. Spicy. Dominate says he agrees with Joe. Tell me why. Why do you agree with Joe? I'm going to hate your opinion. I don't think, again, my take on the whole situation was, I just don't see how they would work things out with Jimmy, bringing him back, going back to this topic, because he is a free agent. It would be very awkward to me if I'm Kyle. Like, you already just cut ties with him for the 2nd year in a row. I don't know. Deuce says, I was so pumped when Trent tossed that, dude. I think everybody was so frustrated that game that even though Trent, that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. It was probably like, It wasn't the most professional move. He lost his cool. But at that point, with the way the game was going, I think every Niner fan was like, you know what? Good for you, Trent. Throw that piece of trash. And we were happy because that was like our only highlight of the game, other than the CMC touchdown. So it was good to see. Mark says Jimmy is not playing for $6 million. He's not taking a small contract because he's going to get a contract somewhere else. That to me is why the take just made no sense. There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, and we talked about it. So, but we'll see. Again, we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Well, we'll see. Monday, tomorrow is a new day, a new week. There's going to be a lot of news this week. I'm sure there will be. And we'll be here. We'll talk about it all. But I appreciate you guys. I hope you had a good weekend. I know it was the first weekend without Niner football, and it was crazy. It was weird. I don't know. It is what it is. It's the first week of a long journey this offseason. But you know how it is in the offseason? We're going to get a lot of rumors. We're going to get a lot of smoke. And we're going to talk about it every day. But I will see you guys later this week. See you tomorrow, of course. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hopping in. Make sure you hit that like button. And thank you for all the support. John, I love you too, my bro. Appreciate all you guys. Take care. Have a good night. Get some rest. Monday morning, don't work too hard tomorrow. And have a good week. Have a blessed week this week, everybody. Appreciate you.